Hi, friend. Welcome back to Creative Birthright, where I invite everyone home to their creative identity. In today's video, we are going to take a quick trip down memory lane and look at creativity throughout the ages. So let me set this scene. Imagine a world without art, without storytelling, without music or dancing, without creativity. You can't, right? Me either. And that is because creativity is at the core of what makes us human. Where does it come from, and why does understanding its history matter to us today? That is what we're going to get into in this video. And we are going to uncover the rich global history of creativity spanning from Africa to Asia, the Americas, and beyond, to show how it has shaped the world we currently live in and how it can transform your creative journey. But before we dive in, I want to make a small caveat. This is by no means an exhaustive history lesson, but a quick peek in the past and an invitation to dive more deeply into the topics that we're going to be discussing today. I personally, while doing my research, came across so many interesting facts that I want to explore more. So don't be surprised if you see me back down here in front of this camera doing a deep dive into one, if not all, of the topics we discussed today. Let's get started with the birth of creativity. Creativity is as old as humanity itself. Literally, as soon as we popped up here, we started creating. But when we think about artistic and intellectual achievements, many of us are taught to start with ancient Greece or the European Renaissance. But the truth is, humans have been creative for tens of thousands of years, long before what they were doing in Europe and ancient Greece. And this creative expression spanned across every continent and every ancient civilization. So let's rewind back, way back to the first known works of art. And of course, you know where we gotta start. Africa. South Africa, to be specific, where the oldest known symbolic art comes from the Blombos caves. Early humans in that area carved intricate patterns into ochre and crafted beads from shells. And this was perhaps the first sign of abstract thinking and artistic expression. Also in South Africa, the Sand people used rock paintings to depict hunting, spiritual rituals, and daily life. Some of these paintings date back as far as 25,000 years ago. Until this day, they are still studied for their artistic and symbolic depth. Now, let's travel to Asia. Ancient Chinese and Indian philosophies embrace creativity as an essential force. It was thought emphasized spontaneous expression in harmony with nature. Creativity was seen as a state of flow, which was found through aligning oneself with the Tao, the natural way of the universe. This idea influenced early Chinese calligraphy and landscape paintings, where the goal was not just technical skill, but cultivating a deep connection with the natural world. And the Ajanta caves in India are filled with beautiful frescoes dating back to the 2nd century BCE that depict stories from Buddhist teaching, demonstrating an early fusion of religion and visual storytelling. And next, let's hop over to the Americas, where pre-colonial civilizations like the Maya and the Mississippians expressed creativity through massive urban designs, complex hieroglyphic writing, and astronomical calculations that still baffle scientists today. Creativity in the Americas took several forms, from architecture to textiles to written language. In fact, the Maya developed one of the most sophisticated writing systems in the ancient world, using a combination of glyphs and pictorial storytelling. The Dresden Codex, one of the few remaining Mayan books, contains astronomical calculations so precise they rival modern calculations. The Mixtec Codices depict elaborate historical narratives told entirely through pictures, kind of like an ancient graphic novel. These codices were not just historical records, they were creative works of art that blended art, mathematics, mythology, and history. But unfortunately, the arrival of the European colonizers led to the destruction of most of these books, erasing centuries of knowledge and history. So I invite you all to learn more about these creative works of art as a way to reclaim parts of history that were nearly erased, and as a way to recognize that literacy and creativity existed in diverse, sophisticated forms outside of the Western alphabetic tradition. And we could not talk about the birth of creativity without looking at ancient Mesopotamia. And one of the most fascinating milestones in creative history, particularly for me since I am a writer, is found here, where the first known author, Enheduanna, lived over 4,000 years ago. And she was not just an author, she was an Akkadian princess, daughter to the king of Sargon I, and a high priestess. I mean, she really was my kind of people. Her poems and hymns offer unique firsthand accounts of her personal experiences with worshiping the goddess Inanna. And they also provide insights into issues of sexuality, gender, theology, and goddess worship in ancient Mesopotamia. Her work, including the Exaltation of Inanna, is the earliest known instance of a writer signing their name to their work. And that's huge. It means she was not just recording information, she was claiming authorship, voice, and identity. And Enheduanna's work set the stage for literature. It taught us that creative expression is not just about beauty, it's about authority, selfhood, and shaping the world and narratives through words. What if I told you that creativity has often been seen as something that is received rather than generated, an external force that we can all tap into? Throughout history, many cultures have believed that creativity is not something that comes from within, but instead from an external force, whether it be divine, cosmic, or spiritual. In ancient Greece, creativity was attributed to the Muses, 9 goddesses that inspired artists, poets, and musicians. Writers like Homer and Hesiod invoked the Muses before beginning their work, believing that their creativity was channeled through them from a divine source. Similarly, in Japanese Shinto belief, the kami are seen as spiritual forces that inspire creativity, with artists being the channel for this divine energy. Ame no Uzame is the goddess of dance, revelry, and artistic expression, while Amoya Kane represents wisdom and intellectual creativity. And ancient texts like the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki link creativity to divine influence. And in the Americas, indigenous cultures often describe creativity as coming from dreams or visions, with shamans and storytellers serving as vessels for ancestral wisdom. And the Sufi poets of the Islamic Golden Age, such as Rumi and Hafiz, often describing it as an expression of divine love. For Rumi, this love is not just an emotional state, but a profound connection to the universe, where creativity flows from the soul's longing to be reunited with the divine. That sounds really romantic. His poems, like The Guest House, reflect the idea that every emotion, whether joy or sorrow, are simply guests sent by the divine to awaken the creative spirit. Hafiz similarly portrayed inspiration as a mystical encounter with the divine, where love becomes a channel for artistic expression. Their verses offer a powerful reminder that creativity is not just about self-expression, but a form of communion with the divine, a way to connect with something higher than yourself. Yoruba philosophy from West Africa, and more specifically Nigeria, also views creativity as an external force. In Yoruba culture, artists often believe that they are channels for creativity rather than the sole originators. And this reflects a communal, interconnected worldview where creativity flows through generations and is guided by ancestors. The role of an artist is not just to create work, but to maintain balance, harmony, and cultural continuity. So, what does all of this mean for us today? It reminds us that creativity is not just an isolated act. Instead, it's an ongoing conversation between past, present, and future. And these perspectives challenge the modern Western individualistic idea of creativity as purely personal genius and gives us the permission to explore that creativity might be something that we tap into rather than something that we own. And what if I told you that creativity has been the key to human survival? Well, if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I've told you this before, but now I'm going to tell you it again, and I have some historical receipts to back me up. So, we're headed back to South Africa to look at the nomadic San people who practice intricate storytelling traditions for thousands of years. And they weren't just simply telling stories, they were passing on survival knowledge in myths and songs. They were making sure that future generations had the information they needed to survive. And in the Americas, the Inca built vast networks of suspension bridges over the Andes Mountains using hand-woven grass, an engineering feat that blended creativity with necessity. And when the Aztecs and their predecessors needed food to feed their growing populations, they built floating gardens, which was a very creative response to meet the challenge of feeding a massive population. And now imagine setting sail across thousands of miles of open ocean without a GPS, without a map, without even a compass. I mean, most of us turn on our GPS to just go across town. But the lack of this technology did not stop the ancient Polynesians from exploring the Pacific Ocean. They did this by studying the waves and observing the way that swells hit against their canoes. They memorized star positions and even studied the migrations of birds throughout different times of the day and seasons. And this just wasn't navigation, it was an art, a deeply honed creative skill that combined observation, intuition, and tradition. And it worked, allowing them to explore and settle nearly 1/3 of the world. So what's the lesson in all of this? Creativity is not just about making things. It's about perceiving the world in new ways and using that information to not just survive, but thrive. You might be thinking, okay, all of this was very fascinating, but why does it matter? It matters because creativity is not just about making art. It's about shaping identity, both individual and cultural identity. It's about survival and it's about community. Understanding the history of creativity shows us that it has always been a tool for transformation. It means we can claim our own creative voices with confidence, standing on the shoulders of our ancestors who have done this before. It means we can recognize and find creativity in places that we may have overlooked. It means that we can innovate, adapt, and express ourselves in ways that connect us with something that is bigger than all of us. It means that we have to reclaim our creative birthright. And yes, I'm going to keep coming back to that point. So what if the key to unlocking your own creativity isn't about learning something new, but remembering something ancient? So let me know in the comments below what creative tradition from your own culture inspires you the most. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn the notification bell on. And if you found the video useful, share it with someone else who could get something out of it as well. That's all that I have for you today. Thanks for watching and keep creating. I'll see you in the next one.